Hello, welcome to another episode of ISN Talks. Not brought to you by Willem, but hey, you know what? I wish they would sponsor us.
Right?
Eat your stuff anyways, especially the honey butter stuff. It's amazing.
I've tried a few flavors already. I'm liking the tteokbokki and the honey butter.
Have you tried the yogurt yet?
No, I'm gonna try the labor right now though.
Okay. Yeah. Oh man, it's gonna be so delicious.
I hope so.
All right. So, our topic for today. What are we talking about, Nick?
So today, we are going to talk about how we, myself a music theorist, Aura a film theorist, and Jihoon a filthy casual,
I love how you
process
emphasize
K-pop,
filthy.
how we process K-pop differently. So there's a lot of ways to process K-pop when it ultimately comes down to it, and honestly, like, you can process K-pop a lot of different ways. Like we've talked about before, Aura, for example, processes it very much based on, the visual aspect.
Yep.
Whereas myself, I process it based on the audio aspect. Mm-hmm. And Jihoon's kind of like a weird mix.
I've always felt Jihoon processes it more from your, like, closer to music theorist, what I've noticed. But then he's also doing it via culturally too.
Yeah. Well, why don't we kick it off with the Aura then? But first, why don't you guys tell us what that look was all about?
It tastes funny.
You tried it.
It's not bad, but it tastes different.
Have you ever tried Korean roasted seaweed?
Yeah, I love that.
With the sesame oil flavoring and whatnot.
It's more of a vinegar mixed with It's vinegary. It's got like it tastes more like the sushi rice than it does
Oh, maybe they're going off to like the Japanese style.
Yeah.
When they say lava.
That's why I gave the look, because I was like, this doesn't taste like the Korean versions of stuff. It tastes like the Japanese version of
Yeah. Okay.
It's good. Just not what I was expecting.
But just wasn't what you expected. Yeah. Okay. So, why don't you go ahead and actually bring us into how you process your K-pop and digest it.
So I digest things visually, but I also digest things on how the visuals can connect to the music. So I have to digest it as a whole. I've said it before in one of our previous ISN talks. Like, I have to process everything as a whole.
But it's kind of anchored together by what you're seeing as well.
Yeah, because if like the beat it does not match the like visuals, it creates such a disconnect. Or if the song is like, if the song is super upbeat but the visuals are super depressing, that creates a disconnect. When it comes to a music video, everything has to connect in some sort of way to create that connection, to create that understanding. And that's why when I watch it, it has to make sense. The visuals absolutely have to make sense. And that's why I have to process everything as a whole.
And I think too, I think we've seen a couple of times before where the song could be like very emotional in their vocal delivery, but if the visuals presented on screen are not very attention getting, it looks like it just flies over here. Because there has been other music videos where, as much as we give you crap about not having a heart and whatnot, there has been other music videos where you're amazed, and it was like a really emotional, hard-hitting song. Well, when I say hard-hitting, I'm not talking about by beat. I'm talking about by emotion, but also with a very strong visual presentation.
Right.
I've seen where those have grabbed you, and I'm trying to remember which artist it was last year.
I don't remember. We've talked about so many artists and music videos that I've lost track. But then like, it's those hard-hitting like visuals that leave an impression. So like, because we all listen to music over the radio when we're driving, For me, if I can actually, if I've seen something at least once and it's visually capturing, I can actually replay it in my head as I listen to it. So like if I know if the choreography is absolutely stunning, if it's so well choreographed, like even for like dance videos, if it doesn't have to have so many visuals, I can replay the almost exactly how I've seen it before, almost as if I was watching a movie while I'm driving or something. Obviously, I'm not like going, "Oh wow, this is so amazing," not paying attention to the road. I'm very much paying attention to the road, but I can process an entire music video and visually see it as if I was watching it in the moment. And then there's also times where it's like, when it comes to music, depending on some B-sides are absolutely amazing. So much better than the like title tracks.
The actual title tracks, yeah.
If I close my eyes, I can actually visualize my own kind of music video for the track.
Right.
Or even for the title track. If I can rearrange like some things, like for example, TXT's Puma.
Mm-hmm.
Like the reason why when we did that episode where we talked about how it wasn't exactly my favorite, is because what I'm seeing is a very huge disconnect from how I would have done the music video for myself when I closed my eyes to re-listen to it. If there's a lot smaller gap, it's much more enjoyable, because it's like, okay, I'd have to do a lot less tweaking to enjoy it. So I think that's kind of why I have to put so much importance on having it as a whole be really good.
Okay. Yeah. For myself too, like it's I can kind of see that, because like I know I haven't been doing this recently, but I know for like a while back, I used to do a lot of those, visualizing in my head, like, if I was to make a music video for this track, what kind of music. It was kind of like a hobby, I would just sit there and listen to music and kind of visualize my own music video in my head, or I would think like, oh, this song would be a great accompaniment to like as like an OST for a certain kind of drama scene or action scene, or whatever, and I'll just kind of visualize how it would fit into a movie or a TV show.
Yeah, that's really the fun part of it.
Mm-hmm. So like that I think that's one of the other reasons why it kind of goes back to like what you were saying earlier, where I'm kind of like a mix between both of you, because like I kind of have that side of me as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, Nick, why don't you guys take us into your world?
I like music. No, I'm just playing. Anyway, so like we talked about before, everything I do is almost audio at this point, and a lot of that, like we've talked about before, also stems from me being colorblind.
Mm-hmm.
Visuals just aren't as appealing to me, and so a lot of my music theory background comes from starting playing the cello when I was 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Still continue with the cello, playing a lot of other instruments now. I play a ton of instruments, and so that helps, as well as taking, like in high school, taking AP music theory, and going into that.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of like what I'm looking for in music, I'm looking for chord progressions, how they relate to other forms, because music has, just like film does, music has a lot of historical and cultural context.
Right.
Why they do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun to see that like cultural context connect to another culture.
Mm-hmm.
Just by maybe 1,000 years ago, those cultures interacting.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
For example, you see a lot in like Chinese like pop music or Chinese traditional music. You see it connecting to the Middle East a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And you see a lot of cultural connections in the music between the Middle East and China, and that's because they did a lot of trade, they interacted a lot.
The Silk Road.
Yep. with the Silk Road and so a lot of that stuff. And so it's really interesting to see like those cultural connections, I guess. And you know, it's interesting to see, like I've talked about before, in K-pop there is no real law of music theory.
Yeah.
So the way we're taught music theory in the Western world is we are taught that music theory is a law.
Okay.
You know, you follow this to make a hit song.
Yep.
And that if music theory says no, it means no. But in Korean pop, music theory is more of a theory than it is a law. You can follow this and you will make a hit song out of it, but you don't need to. And we see this all the time with weird chords and, you know, things that really shouldn't be in, like, for example, and I use them as a baseline because their songs don't have any music theory really to them, ITZY's songs.
Yep. Especially with the structure.
ITZY's song structure is not, it doesn't follow anything in music theory.
And that's one of the reasons why I love Dala Dala so much, because it was so novel, so different. And I think that's one of the reasons why we love K-pop so much, is because they're so much less constricted. We feel.
I think I remember vaguely, but when Dala Dala actually came out, I originally didn't really like it.
Yeah, you had a very negative reaction to it.
But I think a lot of that is also because I didn't understand ITZY's style, because they didn't have a style, you know. They were trying to set a style.
Right.
And I was trying to tell you. I was trying to tell you too that was their style that they were going for. It's like,
right, but they had no previous examples of that style, and so they didn't set a baseline. So coming out with a song that weird on debut is unnatural in a sense. So that's why I think that's a lot of the reason I was so turned down to it. Once Icy came out, I was like, okay, now ITZY makes sense. Like now I understand, you know, but especially because a common thing for groups debut is to have a very overly generic song. Right. Yeah. And that way you could take a style any which way you want, whatever's popular.
And that's why, like, at the time, I was trying to figure out, like, you know, it to me, it seemed like really obvious that was the style that they were going for. That was what the concept they were going for with that sound. And it almost seemed like you were just rejecting that outright because, like, I don't know, I couldn't figure it out at the time. I think it's because you have that kind of predisposition, I guess, of what it should be.
I think a lot of that really stems from expectation versus reality. Yeah. So like I'm expecting them to release a generic song so they can figure out what the group suits, right? Yep. But I forget that they're a big 3 company, so they know their trainees and they know what style, and they've trained their trainees from day one for the most part. Yeah. And so they already know what style they suit because they've trained them for that style, you know? Like we talked about before, I'm not entirely a fan of the big 3. I'm a fan of some of their groups, but I'm more focused on the smaller companies. And for the smaller companies, their agenda is you release a song that is way overly generic. If the media reacts badly to it, you switch style. Yep. You know, that is the way. And so I tend to not see the difference between the big 3 and like smaller companies with first gen test groups. Yeah,
I kind of see what you're getting at too about the big 3, because I found myself getting burnt out on SM's label style. Like I mean, we established it from like last year when Zimzalabim came out, and it's like, oh, it sounds like SM from 2015 or 2016. And you're like, yeah, because that's when they wrote the song. Like, that's when
they wrote the song. Yeah,
weird. You know, like, how did I know that?
Yeah, but I also find it interesting when bigger companies and bigger groups take a song that is overly generic and put their own twist on it, and still make it work for their group. So, like for example, As You Wish, WJSN. I talked about it before. It sounded like a Nugu song. That's because it's overly generic. But they put their own twist on it, made it a WJSN song, and made it work. And that worked out well for them. You know? So, because, like we talked about before, the line of, like, Nugu is not... It's not just like an LBL cut line, you know? Yeah. There is no fine line. it's a very broad spectrum.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
because you can argue you can argue for a lot of groups. A lot of people argue Dreamcatcher's still Nugu. Because if you look at their performance in like Korea, for example, they toe a fine line there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
I think definitely some of my analysis of music theory has been inside of K-pop has been blended kind of with, you know, the Nugu, for lack of a better term, music theory.
Yeah.
That has caused my expectations to change a bit.
Yeah. I mean, something I've also noticed is, you know, when it comes to music has basically been around more for a lot longer than film theory, you know?
Right.
I feel like with film theory, there's a lot less to go off of, and I think that allows a little bit more of a different view and spectrum of things. And because, you know, I've started trying to learn music theory. Granted, I'm like surface level like learning. Okay,
You're doing great though.
So
yeah, I was actually really impressed with him yesterday. So
but yeah, no, I still don't fully understand it, and I don't think I'll ever understand it as well as Jihoon or Nick. You know, they
you're probably not that far behind me, dude. I don't.
Debatable.
I mean,
debatable.
the thing about music theory, right, is because it's been around for so long, we have a lot of terminology.
Exactly.
A lot. Yeah, a lot
Like,
of...
not to say film doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing about music theory in and of itself is, terminology is different based on the instruments you use, based on the instrumentation, based on what scale you're using. It's all different.
Exactly.
Now there are some overly broader in terms, but a lot of things for like film theory, right? If you switch camera, the terms don't change. A pan is still a pan, a tilt is still a tilt.
Exactly.
You know? Some terms will change, I'm not gonna lie, but you know, the overgeneralized terms are still exist. And that's because film theory is far better formatted than music theory. Music theory is horribly formatted.
And I think that part of that too is because at the time when film came of age, going back to history, the world was much more globalized and was much more interconnected versus when back in way like, you know, back in the day when you know, all these cultures started coming up with their own brands of music. They kind of developed in their own little pockets, and then as like more cultures started interacting with each other and they started blending their styles together, I think that's where we come up with that problem that you're getting to.
Yeah. And it definitely depends on the where you learn your music theory and like what level you learn your music theory from. Also depends a lot will change your view on music theory. Because for example, if you learn it from the Korean perspective, you're not gonna understand Western music theory. It's gonna be like, yes, but why do they follow all the rules?
Right.
You know? But you know, and so what I've learned over time, and this kind of only really happened when I kind of started in ISN, is that music theory has different kind of, I don't know how to put it. There's variations. And you can't apply Western music theory to K-pop, C-pop, J-pop, any of it.
Right.
It just won't work. Like, but learning a global music theory is easier once you have learned kind of the terminology, and I don't know everything, but once you have learned some of the terminology and stuff, but it definitely influences the way you look at like an MV, you know. You know, when I'm listening to a song, I know you guys have seen it, but there will be times where I'm really trying to listen in, and I'll be like have my headphones like really pressed up against my ear.
I've noticed that actually.
And that basically what that does is it allows a tighter sealer on my ear, so I can hear the background instruments, the things that they put way in the back because they're going to bring them forward later. I know me and Jihoon have both talked about it, but that is a value of high quality headphones. Or some form of high quality sound system. Headphones are the easiest method because you can put it right up against your ear.
Get better sound isolation.
Yeah. But even with like, you know, a really high quality surround sound system, you can hear that too. but yeah, and so like putting instruments all the way in the back, bringing them forward, mixing, mastering. We've talked about that a lot recently.
Yeah.
You know, mixing, mastering, you know, all that type of stuff is stuff that I really listen for. That's if there is a focus in like what I do, it's instrumentation.
Right.
I listen to instrumentation first, and then later on I will focus on I'll focus on like chord progression, you know, the weird things, maybe this is out of scale, stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, something I want to say, just in case someone like tries to go after how the things we're saying. We're not professionals, and we're definitely not speaking for every film theorist, every music theorist,
Yes.
every filthy casual out there. I'm looking at you for the last one, Jihoon.
Yeah, I mean, everyone listens to music differently.
Exactly.
Yep.
Everyone can process music differently. It's not only K-pop. It's every type of music. Everyone can process differently. It can inflict different feelings.
Exactly. Especially because same with the music videos, like, because colors invoke emotion. But like, take Nick for example. He has a hard time processing color.
Yep.
So
he'll miss those cues.
He'll miss the cues, and even what we've talked about this. I don't know if we've talked about it on camera or during one of our recordings, but he has said he has corrective colored glasses, but because his brain doesn't process color the same way, it doesn't invoke the same emotion. There's that disconnect,
Right.
and
Yep.
that's what is so fascinating. And I think the emotions have to come from the instrumentation, from the vocals, from the notes, all of that. He gets all of his emotions from that. While I, being someone who is more visually appealed, all of my emotions come from colors. If I create my own music video in my head, I very much see colors that fit better for each like instrumentation, that fit the vocals, and invoke a certain feeling. Like, and I mean, I'm not sure. And then it's going to be very different to Jihoon. We should probably talk about, because Nick and I have had like 10 minutes each to talk about our stuff.
So I guess I'll start off with the title of Filthy Casual. That is really more of a tongue-in-cheek jab, I guess, at like more of my musical taste.
Yeah.
Versus more of how I listen to, but even how I take in K-pop, I guess it's kind of also similar to what I would expect a more mainstream casual person would, because like so when I first listen to a song, right, I'm not analyzing right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
If I like a song, or if I'm more neutral towards a song, I'm not gonna put brain power to it. I was like, yeah, I thought it was alright, and I'll just leave it as that.
Yeah.
But if I did not like a song, like if I disliked it, or if I really loved the song, then I'm gonna be digging deep. I'm like, why?
Mm-hmm.
I want to know why. What is it about the song that I don't like, or what is it about the song that just made me like so hooked into it? And then I'll go through it and I'll watch it. I'll watch the music video. I'll listen to the song 6 times, 12 times over, trying to pick out all the different details throughout. And from there, that's when I kind of go into like, the Nick and Aura mode, where I'm looking at the music video and analyzing like their camera work, the colors that they use, the makeup and whatnot, or seeing what the music means, not to the same detail that Nick does, but now I'll go through like, oh wow, I really love that build up, going to like like the crescendo, going to its climax, and then its releases, and yeah, I love a lot of that stuff. I just want, for me, it's really more, I want to know why.
Okay.
I
mean, like, we might call you a filthy casual, but one, that's a name. For everyone who thinks like Nick or I came up with that name, no, neither of us came up with that name for him. Okay,
Jihoon came up with that name.
Jihoon came up with that name for himself. So it's like,
well, it's because I based it off of something that Nick said. I can't remember what exactly Nick said. Like, oh well, I guess I'm just gonna go with casual then. I think it was something about you were saying something about like my musical taste. It was something more along the lines of like what of like the average person or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, so I was talking about how like you kind of bridge the gap between myself and Aura, you know, in our recordings, because you know, like we're two opposite ends of the spectrum, and you're somewhere in the middle. You like we talked about, you lean a little more towards the music side, but you know, you're somewhere in the middle, which bridges the gap really nicely between us. And I was like, and when you were talking about, I think it was like before we were talking about a twice MV or something, you were like, yeah, I really like this. I was like, yeah, you're a casual.
There you go. That's what it was. So that's where that came from.
It's like all casuals like this.
But as for myself, like more specifically, there like things that are unique to me, or I should say, that are more niche level for myself. I'm an audiophile, you know, like I really love high quality music, very accurate reproduction, and not only that, but same with when it comes to video. Like I have this TV I use a device, like an actual physical device, to color calibrate it so that it represents 99% of the color profile that the industry uses. So that
and I mean, like you, because you rip all your songs too, right? Like you'll buy the album and then rip them off the CD
for full quality.
For full lossless, right? Yeah, and so if you guys didn't know, when they send you an album, the CD included is not like just a random MP4 that was thrown on the CD.
MP3
or loaded on the CD.
MP4 is visual and audio. MP3 is just straight audio. I'm sorry. I've spent a lot of time doing this stuff. Okay.
You know, so it's not like a normal MP3 that's like loaded onto the CD. You know, it's like a full lossless recorded track, which sounds a ton better. You know, you're able to hear a lot more clear things, like the person's voice, the actual instrumentation. That's where you really hear if it's live or synthesized instruments. That is the way to hear. But if you have like $20 headphones, it's not even worth it.
It's not gonna make a difference. And that's why like I don't listen to Spotify really, because like when I'm listening to music, I want it full quality. So same with the video. I would prefer to have stuff on Blu-ray, but you know, you all know that, you know, discs are dying. You know, Blu-rays going out. So.
And on top of that, you also don't you also record the episodes on like a legit camera?
I do.
Yeah.
I use a legit
You do
camera.
too, Aura, right?
For me, I use a Logitech 1080p.
Oh, that's right. We use the same thing.
Okay.
I will say that, you know, for those who don't understand what lossless is, it's an uncompressed file where, you know, like when you compress a file, you are taking data out. You are taking certain aspects out to make the file small enough. And
and typically the details that they take out, it's supposed to be not very perceptible to your average person, especially like since you're not going to be like looking in that or listening that deep into it. You're gonna miss it. So like if you're picture like a scale between my hands, like that goes like 1 to 100, and when they compress it, they're gonna say take out like every 5 numbers in between. So instead of being a scale of 1 to 100, there's actually only like 80 values in there. But what you see is still gonna look like, you know, because you're looking from far back, something that looks like 1 to 100.
Right.
That's how they do it with colors. They do something similar with audio.
They do it with pictures and whatnot.
Yep. And so I mean, as far as that goes, lossless is like, you know, non-compressed audio is like the best digital audio you can get. There's a lot better physical audio you can get, such as vinyls, stuff like that. That doesn't even really compete with lossless. You know, it's much more raw sound.
The only way to get more raw is just go live, just straight live.
Literally go
Literally
live. Go to a concert.
So that's for me. That's part of my entire experience, is the accurate reproduction of the video on screen and the sound coming into my headphones or my speakers.
Right.
Or you also mentioned cultural, something cultural as well.
I mean, we talk about how culture affects music and music videos all the time. I feel like out of the three of us, you're probably the most culturally round. I don't know if that's exactly right.
The most culturally in touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, part of that comes too from living in Japan for like 9 years. So yeah, I guess that's part of that too.
And then you've got a few different mixes in you as well.
Yep.
And
even with living in the U.S. too, like, you know, living in Hawaii, living in California, living in Florida, Texas, New Mexico, like, even within America, it's very, very like culturally diverse too.
So how has that exactly affected how you listen to music videos?
I try to, whenever I watch a movie or listen to a song or whatnot, I always try to take into context of the culture that generates it. So if it's K-pop, then I want to try and take into the context of Korean culture, because something I've noticed from a lot of American K-pop fans, like I'm talking more specifically about people who've only lived in the U.S., who've only like maybe lived in the same state for their entire lives. I've seen a lot of them misinterpret a lot of actions or sequences or parts of a song because they're looking at it from an American point of view.
Yeah.
And certain things just don't mean the same. So same with Japanese. You know, I've seen a lot of that, and so when those come up, like I think that's part of the reason why like I try to like kind of give those cultural nuances when we talk about some of these music videos in our episodes,
right?
Because knowing that some people may not get it.
Yeah.
You know?
So, Aura, I know you mentioned like you like when you're looking at an MV and like listening to music, you kind of draw scenes in your head.
Right.
I wanted to know, Jihoon, do you do a similar thing?
Draw scenes in my head. Oh,
yeah. So, such if you're listening to music.
Oh yeah. A lot of times, depending. So, with not so much with K-pop, but more like with stuff that's like more instrumental, especially like classical music.
Oh. Okay.
I'll pick like a different genre, like oh, you know, this could be for an adventure type of movie, or you know, this could be for like a martial arts film. I do a lot of that. Not so much lately. Again, because it's kind of like I was saying earlier, where I don't analyze every single song I listen to. It's only the ones that I really love or did not like. It's kind of preventing mental exhaustion, because like, you know, we're working professionals. I do a lot of brain work at work. I don't always want to be engaged in my brain all the time. Sometimes I just want to just sit back and just take it in. So
okay.
Right.
So
compared to like a while, like, you know, back when I was less mentally engaged, you know, at that point in my life, my imagination would just go run wild. I think you guys have picked this up, like not on camera, but like when we were in the chat. Like I can have a really, really active imagination, and yeah, that's part of how I have that creative outlet.
Okay. So that's interesting. Because so you don't constantly, because for me I can't turn off the analytical side of my brain ever. I'm no matter what I'm doing, I'm constantly analyzing. I'm actually kind of curious. Is that something that's very much the same with you, Nick? Cause
yeah, I'm very much the same. So like, I don't draw scenes in my head. When I actually listen to music, when I listen to music, my visualizations are staffs, notes.
Yep.
Okay.
Those are my visualizations. You know, when I hear music, I mean, I don't have perfect pitch. I'm not going to be, you know, that guy that's going to like, oh, I have perfect pitch. No, I don't. That'd
be amazing if you did.
But
just saying.
Yeah. Well, no, it wouldn't. I would not be able to get away from it. So like, I don't have perfect pitch, but I do know chords that resolve to one. And so what I do is, if I'm listening to a piece, literally all I need is to look up you know, what what key it's in, and I've got everything I need. Because then from there, I know what the tonic, the resolution chord, for lack of a better term, is. And so when I'm listening to music, I see the staff go by in my head, rather than actually seeing, like, actors or / actresses and scenes.
Oh, okay, that's fascinating. So you see notes in your head rather than scenes, whereas I see scenes rather than notes.
And whereas me, I tend to turn my brain off.
Yeah, like we said, the filthy casual.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, as far as the analytics, so I hear, looking at chord progression and stuff like that is just a natural thing now for me. It doesn't really turn off. The only time that I'm not doing it is if I'm focused on another task. So like if I'm gaming and I hear background music, I'm not sitting there, I'm like, oh, that 3 resolved to 1, as I'm doing stuff in the game. But if I'm just like at work and like something comes on the radio, I'm not really focused on what I'm doing at work. Yes, I can't stop myself from doing it. It's just something I do.
Well, I guess I'm not, for myself, I'm not completely disengaged. I like to get immersed in to the feeling, like the imagery. So, and when I say like imagery, it's not so much like I got a discrete, like, specific picture in mind, but more like it's kind of like more like a I don't know,
sort of an emotion.
It's
like,
yeah, it's really more emotional. And so a lot of times for the songs that I love and for the songs that are on the playlist, they're very engaging in that way. So I mean, I've kind of mentioned this before, like it's one of the reasons why I can't listen to K-pop at work and expect to be able to work at the same time, because I'm gonna stop paying attention to work. I'm gonna be focusing in on the song and getting lost into it and feeling everything,
Right.
So
yeah, I definitely understand that.
Yeah. So I'm with you on that. Yeah.
I'm in a very similar situation, but usually the stuff I focus on is almost strictly ballad at that point.
Yep.
Like we've talked about before, songs you can, do whatever through, and songs you have to sit down and listen to. Active versus passive listening.
Yeah.
right.
And that's a lot of my songs.
If I really want to
active.
do some passive listening, like stuff I just want to have in the background while I'm working, that's when I throw on J-Rock. That's when I throw on, stuff that I'm not as interested in.
Yep.
But stuff that I still really like to listen to.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm actually kind of curious now, because you said you were more closer to emotional based, or from at least what we can understand is you're more emotional based, Jihoon. Because like I said, I see pictures, I see actors, actresses.
Yep.
I see the singers. Nick sees staves, notes, lines and whatnot. I'm sorry, dude. I don't know all the terminology.
Nah, that's about right.
It's cool.
What do you see? Or do you just see nothing, and is it just all feeling?
So it depends. Because like sometimes if it's based within the context of the song, really. Based within the context of the song, the emotion that it evokes. Like sometimes I'll be picturing myself, walking through a forest. If it's like one of those tranquil, kind of calming songs, right? I'll picture that. Or if it's something that's more kind of hard hitting, and kind of aggressive, then I'll picture myself, playing a video game where it's like one of those action scenes, right? Or especially if it's something more like romance, then yeah, I'll picture myself with my wife, or to certain memories I've had with my wife.
Okay.
And again, it's not like always like it's very specific hard image. Sometimes it's just recalls a feeling tied to those events or those type of scenes. So yeah, it's kind of hard to picture or hard to explain.
No, I mean, for me, I get it. I honestly do get it. Because that's that actually makes things quite interesting, because we do see everything on different levels and different ways. I mean, I kind of wish we had someone who doesn't listen to K-pop or is more of a passive listener, because something I've also noticed is I'd say you're probably the closest, from my understanding, as a passive listener out between all three of us, but you're not exactly a passive listener. There are going to be times where you're very actively listening.
Yeah, that's why I can't do American music anymore, because it's just way, like, I've noticed, like when it comes to like American music, it's just it seems very musically bland, but it's fine if you're listening to it passively, which I feel like American society generally is in that kind of, like, in that realm of just passive listening to music.
And then I've also noticed, and then Nick and I are very active listeners, because we can't exactly turn off our brains. We're constantly analyzing if we're listening to a song or watching a music video. So I kind of wish we had someone else who was, because I mean, I've talked to my friends who passively listen to songs, and they very much dislike the songs that they have to actively listen to.
Yeah, but it's stuff that's calling their attention. They just want to be able to turn off the brain entirely.
So then, question, Aura. When you're listening to, like, I remember like One Us is Lit, right?
Bro.
Stuff that has a lot of cultural content, right? Do you get like flashbacks to your days in the Han Dynasty, or?
Ow.
10 out of 10 for setup, 10 out of 10 delivery.
You know what sucks is I actually so in my head I do picture like old, like Han Dynasty, or like other, like very old and dynasty, like very dynasty, like royal dynasty. I would probably say in a regal sense. When I listen to it, I see royalty, I see martial arts, I saw more of that kind of stuff that has happened in the Han Dynasty. I don't know what the equivalent of the Korean version is. I'm sorry, I'm not as probably caught up with Korean history as other people, but I see imagery very much like that, and
yeah. I do get that, because, like, you know, when I see personally stuff like One Us is Lit, you know, it does, you know, I do think back to like what I've learned from, you know, the Three Kingdoms era, you know, the Goryeo dynasty, stuff like that. So yeah, it's interesting, because like I've noticed with a lot of culture, so like I talked about, I see notes, right?
Yeah.
But I've noticed with a lot of cultural impact, if it's something that I know historically and culturally, it's easier to form an image in my head.
Okay.
So a lot of that stuff, I do it on the first time. Like the first time I'll watch it. Yeah. So,
like.
Continue.
Huh?
Oh, because like Nick, you had other things you're about to say with that.
No.
Oh,
okay.
Oh, sorry. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
So what were you gonna say?
So it's very much similar to like, let's say, Card. They're very much Latin based. I very much do see the Latin kind of inspired imagery in my own head. Granted, I don't know very much about it, so there's definite gaps in how I kind of see it.
Right.
So, but if it intrigues me enough, where it makes me want to learn more about the Latin culture, it wants to make me understand a little bit more, so I can create a more complete picture. Because when it comes to a very cultural song where I don't understand the culture completely, it makes me want to learn more about it.
Yeah, isn't that weird? Like through K-pop, I feel like I've been picking up or trying to learn a bit more about like Latin American culture as well. And because because that's something I'm not very familiar with either. I've had friends from like Puerto Rico, the Honduras, what is it, El Salvador, place, and then and Mexico, but I've learned some things from them, but not like enough to get like super in depth into the culture where I can speak intelligently,
Right.
Right.
But through K-pop, I feel like I've been kind of continuing on with kind of exploring those cultures as well. So.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same with a lot of the recent Japanese infusion inside of K-pop, because
Day 6.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of Japanese infusion inside of K-pop now, where either there's a few Japanese members, they have Japanese releases, something along those lines, and that gets me more interested in that kind of culture as well.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the infusion of Japanese styles, because was it Day 6 had that one that was you said was an anime opening or something?
Dreamcatcher.
Was it Dreamcatcher? I thought
No, it was Dreamcatcher.
They might have Day 6. I could see Day 6 doing one as well.
Yeah, it was last
the only anime openings I think of in my head, off the top of my head, are Dreamcatcher songs.
Yeah, it was Dreamcatcher. You'll probably that.
No,
I mean,
it was Day 6.
Dreamcatcher's Tension was definitely one,
yeah.
but
Dreamcatcher for sure. But there was one from Day 6 that.
I think I know what song you're talking about.
Yeah, I just can't remember what the title was. It was last year.
We'll like we always remember after recording.
Yeah. So, yeah. Oh man. So, I got reminded earlier too, when you're talking about Gotcha's Lit. So for Gotcha's Lit, I did the initial want to seek out all the cultural references throughout the music video and the song. Especially in the song, because they have so much. But then afterwards, now that I've kind of had all that resolved, nowadays, when I listen to that song, in my head it's choreography. I'm if I was to make my own choreography for the song, there's a lot of songs where it's like that. So specifically with Icon and Got7, a lot of their songs, I'm thinking up a choreography in my head. So I do a lot of that as well. I forgot about that, and because you brought that up, you reminded me. So,
all right, we heard it here first. Jihoon's gonna become a choreographer.
I'm actually, dang it! Now that you bring that up, I'm actually kind of curious. What do dancers when they're watching the music videos? How do they interpret the dances?
A lot of what they're looking for is nuances.
Okay.
Some very small movements you wouldn't really notice.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of what I get to when I'm talking about the small little details of choreography.
Okay.
Because there is a lot of that, and they're very subtle details, even down to the way the fingers, your fingers are positioned towards the camera, or the formations one, because I brought up I have that pet peeve of someone in the back being obscured by people up front. In the greater scheme of things, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I also know that you've mentioned it for ISN, where between I believe Lavi and Rose and Violetta, they made references.
Yep.
And with the whole finger plucking and the flower formation. So it's interesting.
Yeah. From what I know from dancers that watch K-pop, a lot of what they're looking for is things that are very small but are really difficult. For example, a great one that not a lot of people know is what's called chest isolations. You see it a lot in boy groups where they just pop their chest out. That's really difficult because it's not a natural movement. And so, and it's a lot of muscles involved, a lot of coordination, and getting, 6, 9, 12, however many people you have in your group to do that all at the same time and be in sync. Is really hard. And that's why how in sync K-pop is impresses a lot of dancers, especially with groups that are notorious for being in sync. 17 being probably one of the forefront of those.
Right.
Or even certain movements that are very difficult to maintain a balance with. There's a lot where like kind of going back to like what you're talking about chest isolation. When you compare, when you put that in combination with certain footwork and arm positioning, it can be really hard to maintain your balance. So, especially if they maintain it too. Yeah.
And like how far they have to move for formations as well is another big one.
You see
people go across the stage for formations,
Yep.
and they have to do that in like 2 beats and they make it.
Yeah,
It's like you can't even sprint there.
Yeah, you go from God 7. He does that a lot. He's always sprinting from one end to his position, like to the other side. Like he's sprinting a lot. Yeah.
Yep. Or like doing that, like because there are basically sometimes you have to hop essentially to your place because you're trying to do the move while changing formation.
Yep.
And there are times where they need to hop across the stage.
Yep.
And they only get like 3 hops. So yeah.
And you're trying or when you try to do that in step at the same time too.
Yeah, and you have to do it in step and maintain your form, and yeah. So that's what a lot of dancers are looking for. They're looking for how like idols can do that because it's very difficult.
Right, and okay, I will say this: their dances are incredibly hard. I've tried to dance to some of them.
Oh yeah.
It is exhausting.
It's great cardio.
Amazing cardio, yeah, for sure.
Yep.
But okay, they still look amazing. Like you don't see them like overly sweating. They're not like completely drenched. It's like okay.
They have to maintain their facials as well.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. I mean, and you gotta think too. Like when they're practicing for hours a day, like try practicing like Violetta for 20 minutes. Can you do the full 20 minutes?
No.
Right.
Well,
like,
and on top of that, like a lot of people don't know that idols actually have to do a lot more training than just dance, vocal, or rap training. You know, there's obviously learning the English language.
Yep. Language training. Yep.
There's actually a facial training they have to go through to maintain their facials while on stage. There's breath control training. It's like a thing that was pointed out a while back by an idol is if you hold your breath, you can make moves more powerful. And so they practice holding their breath for certain moves like point dances.
Yep. And that's kind of another reason why you need to have like that really good cardio.
Yep. That's why the point dance is usually in a more upbeat song. It's usually a lot faster. Is because they understand that the idols are currently holding their breath.
Yep.
And they can't breathe.
And they're operating off of lung capacity right there.
Yep. That's all lung capacity. Which I mean, they are singers / rappers, so they do have greater lung capacity, which does help a lot.
Right. But you also have to remember, like, it is physically taxing.
They're burned out.
Oh yeah, so sometimes they're all going to be lip syncing. Times where they do lip sync, because some people, I've heard it before, and I find it stupid, because yes, sometimes singers will lip sync, and that's not to say that they're not talented. It's they have to pre-record because of how taxing dancing can be. You don't want them to go, let's do this while they're singing and dancing. That's
yeah. That's why it's kind of weird to see when people discover music shows are pretty much all pre-recorded.
Yeah.
They pre-record them so they sound live, but like they're like, wait, they didn't sing. That's not that. This is lip syncing. Well, yeah, it makes for a better show.
Yeah. I remember a long time ago. So Fandoa, she's known for having powerful vocals, stable delivery. But there was one Japanese performance that she did for some TV show, whatever. She did it live, not lip synced, and it was a very fast tempo song. How stable did you think her vocal sounded? It was a train wreck.
Yeah.
That's the reason why they do pre-recorded.
And we're definitely not saying that they're not talented. We're far from it. Like Boa, LiQWYD, and this is definitely not to say that they are lip syncing. These are just examples of just some random singers.
Yeah, they're legends for a reason.
SNSD, you know.
Yeah, I can probably confidently say that every current pop group and soloist has lip sung at some point
Yep.
in their career,
And
and it's just a common thing.
right,
It's like the use of autotune.
right.
It's like autotune is in every song,
Yeah, because you can't perform every song live and do the choreo at the same time.
especially if you're sick. Because idols still perform all the time when they're sick.
Yeah,
And you get reduced lung capacity. Like,
You get reduced lung capacity. You get shorter vocal ranges. Like if there's a really high note and you're sick, you can't hit it. You just literally can't.
Yeah.
Your voice just doesn't go that up there, and so yeah, all of that.
And then you, like, and they are practicing how to lip sync, because if the audience can tell you lip sync, they're gonna get at you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, you'll hear it.
And I'm not saying that everybody's going to get at an idol or a singer or some other artist. There are some that understand the situation. And for like us speaking about it or even bringing it up, I'm hoping that more people can understand it. You know.
Yep. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, being able to kind of put people's expectations in check. You know, not expect like such a unrealistic thing from idols, especially.
Yeah, like
putting things in context. I think that's a big part of our focus too, is doing all that for our audience.
Yeah, like if think about trying to hit some of Taeyeon's high notes and like you have like strep throat or something like that.
Not just hitting it,
I'll go
but
home.
maintaining it stably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not gonna hit that, and you don't want to disappoint your fans. And that's something that I've also seen about idols. It's like they do really care about their fans, and
Yes.
they do their best not to disappoint you. You know. Wow, we really went off topic.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. You know, it's fine.
Welcome to ISN Talks.
Oh yeah. Just
You
wait.
guys think we should wrap it up here?
Please wrap it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for watching. This has been ISN Talks. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Click that bell icon if you want to know when we upload in the future. Join our Discord. We talk there pretty frequently. You can interact with us. That's always pretty cool. Follow our Twitter. We post there pretty frequently, as well as our new episodes. And we will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.